Good afternoon, everybody. Now, this is the interactive part of our day, the real reason that you paid to be here. This afternoon's interactive session is called Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? But given the pound is crashing and inflation, people are worried you're going to leave, so it's going to be Who Wants to Be a Billionaire? Now, this afternoon, I'm going to be chairing this discussion, and as I say, you're going to be taking part. And it's going to be about a little bit of your corporate subconscious biases that you bring to the reality TV space. Some of you may know me in a variety of guises on television. Perhaps you'll know me less in my previous form as somebody who used to prosecute cases of international war crimes, defending in cases of international fraud, most especially corruption and money laundering, and in one case, defending in the case of a serial killer. Now I work in television. Hello, Kevin. Now, we have an illustrious and broad panel this afternoon. I'm going to introduce each and every one of them first. We have Natalka Znak, CEO of Remarkable Entertainment and Initial, Banerjee, and US-based indie Znak TV. Nice to see you. And Claire Laycock from Discovery Plus. Gamma Bio from Expectation, and he needs no introduction whatsoever, but is veritably thrilled to be here. Ask him any question you want, and text him, and I'll give you his number later on. It is, of course, head of ITV's television, Kevin Ligo. Thank you all very much for being here this afternoon. Now, I'm going to go over to you, Doug, but before we do, really the point of our afternoon here is this, that there seems to be a general consensus that we should be investing in drama, that's at the heart of it where the commercial value in television is. But this panel, all of us, seek to demonstrate that there is a global dominance elsewhere, and that's in the popularity of unscripted television, of which people on this panel have been at the heart, at the cultural epicenter. This is the golden thread of the perhaps most expensive tapestry you'll find in one place. And this is a panel with a difference, as we are going to test you, the audience, on what you think you know about the world of global format. So, I think you've done it already, but if you haven't, please download the app and have it open now so that each and every one of you can take part. You can find the polls if you click on Schedule and then this session. Now, please don't vote before we tell you. The lines are closed and etc. I'm probably one of the only presenters that's actually read the regulations, I would have thought. Nice. There you are. Yes, still cancelled, but never mind. Anyway, right. As we go through, we're going to be asking questions, but inviting you to give your intuitive opinion on what you think the answer is. So I'm going to throw over to our very own quiz show host. It is the one and only Doug Wood. I'm going to start with our first question. Doug.
Thank you very much. The first question should come on screen now. Our first question is, what is the top most successful unscripted format ever made? Based upon the number of adaptations.
Yeah. Now,
sorry, go on.
Yeah, I was over to the audience now.
Shall I just read the options? A, Got Talent. B, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. C, MasterChef. D, The X Factor. These are your four options for the most successful unscripted format of all time.
Now, I think there's something interesting about these formats, Doug.
There is. They're all from the UK. So I think it shows the heritage of the UK unscripted format market. And also they're all around sort of 20 years old. The winning format, though, has been in more than 150 markets. That's a clue for you.
That's a clue. Now, I'm not sure if you can see what the audience are thinking.
No.
What do you think, Natalka? The answer is?
Actually, I don't know. Maybe it's MasterChef because it's been going a long time. It can be small. No, am I wrong?
I think so.
Mixed bag. It looks like the money's going on. Yeah, MasterChef. Claire?
I would have said MasterChef.
Yeah.
No, it's Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, isn't it?
Gamma?
I was going to say I've watched more Got Talent around the world than I have MasterChef.
You watch.
I'm going to go A.
We've all gone for different things. So.
Now, the answer is, we need a drum roll or of some description. The answer is, what do you think? What was your guess, Kevin?
Millionaire.
Oh, well, there's a reason they pay you the big bucks.
There is.
It is exactly right. Who wants to be a millionaire? And it's an interesting, does that surprise you, Kevin? Obviously not, because you got the answer right in the first place.
No flies on you, Rob.
Yeah, but let's start with you, because ITV was and is home, if you look at those brands, to 3 of those hit formats, and as well as many more. You know, it's an interesting question, and I suppose, you know, never one to, I think, you know, overstate your own talents. But do you think you know a hit when you see one?
Yes, that's why I've never commissioned a failure in my life. No, you know, the thing with the formats, I know this is essentially about formats, but the format is vital, and it's the first block in the building of the programme, but it's only, in my experience, sort of 25-30%, because I'm as concerned as to who's going to make it, what are the ingredients that go into it. So you can have very simple formats that are wonderful, but it's the way they're done that matters. If you take The Masked Singer, the sort of latest one, if you like, that's come through, that was pitched to everybody, you know, and including us, and was turned down. It then came back to me because I thought, oh, a singing competition, people dressed up in silly costumes, it's going to be sort of Christopher Biggins in, you know, Guildford Panto, and then I was shown a clip of the Korean one, and I thought, oh, I get it. It's this extraordinary, weird, creative madness. So it's the doing, not really the idea, that makes that particular show. And I think it applies to lots of formats. It's the way they're made is as important as the sort of clockwork mechanism.
And presumably sometimes, Clay, you can have great ingredients, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it tastes great or it works. And I wonder what a successful global format looks like for you on your slate at Discovery Plus.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us to be successful, it has to work in all our key markets, both the original tape, US or UK, wherever it's from, and then local versions. And something like 90 Day Fiancé for us is a brilliant example of that. So 90 Day Fiancé started life in the US, on TLC US, 10 years ago. There's now over 13 spin-off series, all in multiple series. It's a whole universe. We've now made the first local version, which is a UK one, which had the finale actually on Sunday on Discovery Plus. It's been massive all around the world, including the US. So we're on that journey now, but it's taken all that time and those sort of 10 years of heritage and different spin-offs to get those mega fans in.
And we're going to come on to spin-offs because obviously there's the big Brother reboot. But I have to turn to you, Gamma and Claire. Is the mission, I mean, everybody wants to have a returning format. That's what happens in TV meetings, along with, you know, the one person who makes the actual decision and the rest of the people who go to television meetings to do their best to avoid any blame but claim the credit in the event that they win a BAFTA. You've been at them. Are you developing these series with the idea of creating a sort of Masked Singer juggernaut? Or does it start in a sort of different sort of way? So perhaps with you, Gamma.
I think the kind of like wanting the big hit slightly comes afterwards. So like I'm a proper TV punter as well as a developer, so I sit down and watch a lot. So sometimes when we're creating stuff, it's, are we going to watch it ourselves? And then figuring out, well, who the audience are, so what channel we should pitch it to. And then the next step is, well, will this work in South America? Will this work in the US? Or will this work in the UK? So I think the idea of like trying to develop a global hit kind of comes afterwards. Because even with Love Island, like I'm young enough and old enough to have watched the very first Love Island, and then obviously it came back, but that also took a few series before it became the Love Island that we knew, and then became a global hit.
Natalka, on your extraordinary cultural buffet of things that you've made over the years, I wonder if that's the sort of similar way that you approach it as a punter, as somebody who loves television. I remember someone senior in TV who was watching one of the shows that's now very popular. She said, yeah, the thing about it's just not northern enough. I wonder what you bring to it in the development.
Well, I certainly never sit down and think I want to create a global hit, because that'd be really hard to do, and I don't know how you do that. I think, you know, traditionally you make shows that you want your mum and dad to watch and your sister, and you want them to, you know, my mum once said to me, you used to make really boring shows. I used to work in politics. And then I made a show about Ibiza, and she said, now you make disgusting shows. So, you know, and I'm a celebrity that mum can watch means that you've hit the middle ground. But, you know, it's hard. It's hard. You have to have a good idea, and then you have to have a network to believe in it. And that is so much about it.
And presumably a love of television, an understanding of older formats or their spin-offs. And at the moment, it does seem that we are at a moment of filling linear schedules with new versions of the old, reboots, I think they're called. Kevin, Big Brother is back, talking of shows that you want your mum and dad to watch. Why did you decide to bring it back now? It feels like an extraordinary moment in some ways.
Yeah, I think Big Brother is sort of category defying in that I would honestly say it's the most extraordinary program that we've ever sort of witnessed, and changed everything once it came, and we'd genuinely never seen anything like it. So it's not like, oh, shall we bring back Strike It Lucky? You know, it's maybe we should actually, but it's a special thing. I think we'd learned from Love Island how when these shows work, they are incredibly important to a commercial broadcaster like ITV, and that Love Island paved the way recently for busting the myth that teenagers don't watch television, people don't come. You know, every night, 9 o'clock, there they are watching a big old thing on ITV2. You know, it's extraordinary. And so I think if Natalka gets Big Brother right, it could do a similar job for us. And there's clearly a desire for that sort of programming.
And Natalka, you're going to be making it. I'm wondering what's different about this series, but listening to Kevin, despite himself, it's in a very interesting book that you should read. What's it about?
Don't.
What's it about?
Available now in good stores is The Emperors of Byzantium.
Exactly. Very TV, coming to ITV soon. But the reason I mention that, Kevin, is because it may embarrass you, but I think at the heart of it is that you actually really care that there's a core, there's something that matters. You know, there's value and escapism. Whatever job you do, it has even palliative relief when you make a show that generations can watch, and it doesn't matter how old you are or what class background you come from. And I wonder what's going to be new about the way you're going to be approaching Big Brother in 2022, 2023.
Well, listen, I think it's a hard job to reboot such a popular show. And, you know, from the early days, TV has moved on since when Big Brother, you know, was first on TV, and we used to just love watching people eat their cornflakes. So I think the trick is to keep the heart of it, but make it feel modern, and it has to appeal. You know, obviously, I'm having so many conversations with the hardcore fans about don't touch it, don't do this. You know, you've got to keep everything. I think the hardcore fans will watch it. I need all the people who've never watched Big Brother. You know, my 16-year-old daughter doesn't even know what it is. Wow. Those are the people we need to appeal to. So, hard job. It'll be brilliant, though.
I hear you. It certainly sounds interesting. I suspect I'll be there too for the sort of intellectual element of it as well, which it works on a multiplicity of different levels. Now, talking of curatorial hardcore fans, I have to confess, I am a fan, or was, of Beauty and the Geek, for reasons which are really related to most of my dates that I go on, which don't end well for a variety of reasons. But you're bringing that back as well.
Yeah.
What was the mind behind that? I have to say, again, it feels like a brand feels like an idea, especially in the current contemporary space, that's sort of socially counterintuitive.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. So that was last on Channel 4, I think, in 2006. So it has been rebooted in Australia, and it was that version that caught our eye. Because now, if you think what's changed since 2006, the rise of the geek, right? Geeks didn't used to be cool that they are now. Geeks are now probably paying all our salaries. So actually, the geeks are kind of who you want to be with. And then the beauties, in our version, the beauties, they are all women, so it sort of feels like it's very stereotypical, guys, women. But they've all got successful careers, they've got double degrees. It surprises you when you watch it. It's always just kind of checking your stereotypes. And it's really heartwarming and it's really funny.
Well, I hope you're going to have a gay version because it'll validate me. I mean, most of...
We will have a gay version.
It hasn't gone well for me. My opening ambit is, tell me about your childhood pain. Perhaps that might be the reason why I don't get a second date out. Gamma, as a viewer, but also somebody that has been alongside these old formats, knows about them, loves them, but may not have seen them first time round. We know that Gladiators, for example, wasn't necessarily a success. What sort of risks are there associated with bringing back these old formats?
Well, it's funny, Natalka was saying you're speaking to hardcore fans, because I think when you bring back an old format, you've got two sets of viewers. You've got the hardcore fans who are obviously really excited about Big Brother, like myself, but I started watching it from like season 3, season 4 onwards, and then you've got the new gen. So it's kind of finding that middle balance of still keeping the essence of the original format and what everyone loved about it, but also adding a layer on to make it just a bit more current. So it's quite risky bringing back old formats, and the same with Beauty and the Geek.
Now, I wonder whether, starting with you and working across to Kevin, this sort of perhaps belies or represents this idea that as a creative community, all of us have run out of ideas. Do you think that's what it means?
Oh, no, at all, because while Love Island's been on, there have been other dating shows that have been successes. So you've got Dating and Related, you've got, what are the other dating shows?
Love is Blind.
Love is Blind. You've also got Too Hot to Handle. So even though you are bringing back old formats, there's still a hunger from viewers for just like either, I hate saying this term, but turn of the wheel, and a newer way of like looking at the same subject.
Now, Claire, you were talking about spin-offs, and you've managed to create a whole series of subsets of essentially a very successful commercial brand. I suppose I wonder whether there's a prioritization of spin-offs rather than perhaps new programming. Is that how you sort of see it? I mean, once you've got a good idea, don't change it if it ain't broke.
No, I don't think so. I think you've got to look after your big valuable brands. So a 90 Days or a Say Yes to the Dress or whatever it might be. They've been around a long time. You've got to keep refreshing them and changing them. Talent, producers sometimes, all sorts of twists, whatever. So that you've got to keep on that. Bringing back, rebooting a show is a slightly different thing. So that's something that's been away for ages. You're bringing it back, and then and we're doing both of those things. But we're also doing brand new formats as well. So we've got another, again in the reality dating space, Written in the Stars, about to launching in December actually on Discovery Plus, which is an astrology dating show, and that is brand new, and that's risky, and you go into those things, they're big swings, they're expensive, you go into them with your eyes open and your heart in your mouth a bit, and they're probably the hardest to land.
No, she's a fortune, that Mystic Meg.
Yeah, she's very expensive.
Before we come very quickly back to Doug, and sadly we don't have as much time as we would like, but Kevin, I mean, ITV's got a whole series of things in development and on the slate that are new in the reality space.
Yeah, I think actually ITV's, because we live off so much of these shows, we do continuously have new ones on. It's just that we're also quite brutal. I'll have to admit that when they don't work in one series, we'll probably kill it. And in the old days, I think it's a difference perhaps 20, certainly 30 years ago, you would give things much more time because everything scored a high rating, so you could give it time to breathe and adapt and all the rest of it. That's why now I almost never do a new entertainment show without a fully funded proper pilot, and sometimes more than one. But if you look at we talk about The Masked Dancer and The Masked Singer, we talk about 1% Club. there's quite a lot on Starstruck that Metallica's making for us. These are new shows that will return or are returning for their second series. So there is a lot of new stuff out there.
Yeah, there was an audible moment of hearable silence as he said, if it doesn't work first series round, we'll kill it. Everyone went, God, it's someone on TV that's telling the truth. It's quite a thing.
Yeah,
I don't advise you continue to do that. Now, our next question, it's over to you, Doug.
Okay, well, you all seem to do very well guessing Millionaire. Interestingly, though, Millionaire was also the second most successful format last year as well, funnily enough, as well as the most successful ever. But turning to last year, we now want to know which format had the greatest number of new adaptations in 2021. And your options are A, Love Island, B, The Masked Singer, C, The Voice Senior, and D, I Can See Your Voice.
And it's over to you, the audience.
Well, do you mean adaptations, a change from the
No, like
parent-
productions,
Just new-
basically
new productions.
number of productions.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can only take your first answer. It's over to you, the audience. Now, I think there's a number of interesting facts about these titles. Is that right, Doug?
Yeah, I think, we're increasingly seeing, I think we're all very aware of this, the kind of the shift in focus from kind of Europe to Asia. I think there's been a lot of talk about South Korea and Asian formats, although not necessarily always translating into actual formats which move.
Well, we can see how the audience have voted. I mean, this is a phone a very clever friend. And the answer is, just as the audience have intuitively guessed, it is, in fact, The Masked Singer, which was a format that had the greatest number of new adaptations in 2021.
How many were there?
It was on air in 41 markets last year.
Wow, 41.
Yeah.
Now, it's much harder now, but it still seems possible to launch new franchises, and The Masked Singer seems to demonstrate that. Now, Kevin, this is a question that sort of apparently was quite a biggie, which was this. Do you think formats need a UK or USTX in order to become a hit, like The Masked Singer? Is that where they need to take root?
It's certainly easier if they do for lazy English broadcasters who can then watch it in their own language. But I think that the rest of the world tends to look to the UK and then America as to, is it a success there? If it's a success in our markets, it tends to be, not always, tends to be in another. So, yeah, I think the UK is a great place to showcase and start and develop.
And in terms of those alternative markets, those other parts of the world, is it right? Again, this is based on sort of TV suspicion. People that have those commercial hunches that they need at least 3 seasons to embed before somebody like you, frankly, will take the meeting.
No.
Well, that's an answer.
Sorry, I don't. No, slightly misleading this, how many territories, because the way I remember when we started Come Dine With Me, the reason that was in 1 million countries for a while is because it's unbelievably cheap. So if you're in Montenegro, you can afford to make Come Dine With Me, it's a very tasty show. But they can't afford to make I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, or these great big things. So. And that's the beauty of Millionaire. It's just, no one ever bloody wins 1 million, and everybody just, it's 2 people in a seat. So I think the cost of the shows, if I were producing, which thank goodness I'm not, would be a very mindful consideration if you're thinking about global domination.
Now, Natalka, as I say, the head of a series of different production houses and brands. It's a complex set of plates to spin. What's a hit rate of getting a season 2? And I mean, a number of people will perhaps know the painful answer to this, but in your view, how difficult is it?
I mean, it is difficult. Happily, we've just got a season 2 with Starstruck on ITV, which is great, and it is now selling brilliantly internationally. But I think all producers know development is a thankless and miserable task often. 99% of what you pitch is not going to get picked up, and an awful lot of what you do make then doesn't get picked up. hence I'm now running a number of companies, so I've got more stuff to throw out there because it's quite hard. Before that, I was just running my own production company, and it's quite brutal because, you know, that pickup is, you know, the lack of the pickup, you get a huge big show, but if you don't get the pickup, you know, you're constantly feast or famine.
And you worked in America, where presumably you went to a meeting where everybody told you how fantastic you were.
God.
And then you never heard from them ever again.
Yes, when I first got there, I thought it was brilliant, and then they don't phone you back. Yeah. I mean, it's brutal there. At least Kevin will get to the end of a series. They will pull your show on the second episode. Now that's hard.
And tell you the truth, it's not nothing.
It's a lot easy. It's a lot easier, though, statistically, to get a second series than it is to pitch. As you say, you might hit 30 ideas out there before one's picked up.
Yeah.
But actually, you've got probably a 50-50 chance of getting to series 2 from 1, and then probably better than that to series 3, and then you're in.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's tricky.
And sort of Claire and Gamma, I mean, in development, Gamma, is it really the situation that you feel that everybody just wants that instant hit?
Yes and kind of no. So it's more a hit that cuts through, if that makes sense. So some places are asking for like, oh, what's going to make the papers and the news? But then on the flip side, so like, I am going to swear, Fuckboy Island, for example.
What island?
Fuckboy Island?
Fuckboy Island.
Fuckboy Island. It's a dating show.
Oh, right. I was just going to ask you for directions.
It's a dating show which was commissioned in the States.
Oh, okay.
It did well, and BBC have put it on BBC iPlayer. But
gosh, I'm sure Lord Reith would be delighted.
But that's an example of a hit where I personally feel if it had been pitched this side, it wouldn't have been picked up because it's just a bit too...
You're saying Charlotte Moore in a meeting, she wouldn't be just
Fuckboy
delighted by Fuckboy Island? Is that true for you? I mean, you know, it's a different thing. You know, ITV, especially in linear, we were just hearing from Carolyn McCall, you know, overnight still matter. That's, to some extent, depending on where it is in the linear schedule, the barometer of...
Forgive me.
It's the thing, I mentioned Carolyn McCall and then that happened. But that is still the sort of barometer, the success of linear. Now, I wonder, is that how you see success? Is it a second series based on whether it's got good volume, good share? How have you adjusted if you like, the way in which you determine whether or not you've had a successful show?
Well, I mean, so I still look after, I look after Discovery Plus SVOD, but also a big linear portfolio as well. So the overnights and the ratings are still massively important on the linear side. Discovery Plus, it's slightly different, depending what your KPIs are, but it is about subscription drivers. You're causing that.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So.
It's what's going to drive subscription, obviously, but also advertising, because we have advertising on Discovery Plus too. So there's a number of different metrics that we look at. It's hard to get a second series.
Well done for carrying on.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Well, I think people can hear me anyway. So we're now going to go to quiz question number 3. Big Brother is going on ITV. So this is an interesting one. It's about demographics and that all important commercial demographic of the 16 to 34-year-olds. Doug?
There's a lot of myths that 16 to 34s don't watch TV anymore. So the next question looks at this demographic in particular, and would like to know for last year, what was the highest rated show in the UK, linear show, for 16 to 34-year-olds? And the options are A, I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, B, Line of Duty, C, The Great British Bake Off, or D, Love Island. And just so you know, we're looking at TV series only here, not events or sports.
Yeah, not events or sports. So it's open to the audience to vote now.
The biggest event this year was?
Presumably the death of Her Majesty, the Queen. No?
Yes, and then Eurovision.
Oh,
yeah, for 64-year-olds.
Eurovision.
Yeah.
What, bigger than the Queen?
No, not bigger than the Queen. No, sorry.
No. I mean, it's right. Now you can see how it's going. We can see what the audience thinks. I'm interested. What do our panel think?
So I think you've all fallen into the Love Island trap.
I'm going to say A.
It'll be.
I think it's C.
I think it's B.
Wait, one at a time.
Sorry.
One at a time. It's very important that everybody knows when professionals that you're pitching to got it wrong. Kevin, what are you going to say?
I would say this. What people get confused about here is I'm a Celebrity is the biggest show there, and just the volume of people watching, there will be more actual 1634 eyeballs watching that show than watch Love Island, which is probably second. Love Island, though, will have the fewest amount of people over 40. And so for a commercial broadcaster, there's very little wastage. If you're an advertiser placing your ad in I'm a Celebrity, you might have more 1634s than you would on Love Island, but we're also making you pay for 8 million people who are not 16 to 34 that are also watching that show. So I hope to God I'm right now, but that's my speculation.
It's a very reasoned opinion. Yours?
Mine is not based on any science at all. I think Bake Off.
You think
For
it's
the
Bake
same
Off?
reason that it's very broad.
And?
I was going to say Line of Duty. I'm going B.
Talca?
I'm totally, I'm a Celebrity. Dad.
Well, I'm either delighted or not delighted to say that the answer is, in fact, A. Yeah, I'm a Celebrity. Get me out. You must feel relieved there, Kevin. So that lovely moment when somebody stops playing the bagpipes.
Yeah.
It must be,
It's always a lovely moment.
Now, if you look, I think we've got some cues here. The question is how really, Claire, I mean, thinking about the brands that are on your network, how important the younger demographic is to you. I mean, you've got sort of written in the stars, Beauty and the Geek, which I really enjoyed. And that, at the heart of what they do, seems on the face of it to be reaching into that particular audience because of the genre. Now, how important is reality, and how important is the demographic to one of the properties you have, which is Discovery Plus?
Yeah, look, it's really important to Discovery Plus, partly because our linear networks don't reach that younger demographic because free-to-air is old. So it's important for us to get our content seen by different groups of people, and Discovery Plus skews younger just because it's digital, it's an SVOD. It's true to say reality is a really important driver of that. We have a lot of reality shows on there, mainly because we have probably every week of the year a new premiere episode of a 90 Day Fiancé spin-off or main series from the US, and those viewers come in, week out to get their 90-day fix, and we have to give them something else to watch. So yes, it's important, but I think it's important also to say we're not going down a 16 to 34 kind of sinkhole, because if you go too narrow, you don't have the scale, so you've got to have broad appeal, and then depending what platform you're putting it out on, that's what will skew the age, but broad is the key.
It's an interesting thing about everybody here talking to some extent about cross-generational viewing. Those generations aren't necessarily defined. I think it's hard to know for sure what a millennial and a Gen Z is. Gamma, I don't know whether you're part of this demographic.
I am.
Now, you were just saying before, what are you watching? And it's an important question. It's about why diversity with power in the room to inform those cultural decisions really matter. What do you want to see on screen as well as developing those really kind of critical cultural things?
So Claire already knows I'm a massive 90 Days fan. Like, I watch all the spin-offs. And what they've done really well with that is, so obviously it starts off as a dating show and they've got 90 days to get a visa. But I would say millennials and Gen Z, some people may disagree, but we're nosy fuckers. Oh, God, I swore again. So we kind of want to, so we watch them in 90 days, but we want to know, okay, so what are they doing next? Are they having babies? And what does the rest of the family feel? And it's kind of that when you're watching it, you can relate. So it's kind of seeing more real people on screen, like in Love Island, or there's a new Bravo show called The Real Girlfriends of Paris, which is so good, which is basically Emily in Paris, but as a reality show. And it's just being able to see yourself in that situation, which sometimes you don't really with celebs, although shows like I'm a Celebrity, it's kind of seeing celebrities in like really silly situations so you can laugh at them. But it's seeing more real stories. I think we'll get it with Big Brother, but having punters back on TV again has slightly been a bit lost.
Right, and to some extent that's been lost for a variety of reasons. Caroline was talking about ITVX. is this really where this kind of type of programming is going to sit, live, and breathe as far as you can see, Kevin?
I think now, certainly at RTV, we have to be more, we have to be all things to all people a bit. And the truth is about a lot of these shows that you've been mentioning is that they are very small audiences. I mean, great, they're good shows, it's not about that. But to ITV, who really make our money out of mass audiences, these wouldn't necessarily work. So what we're stepping into with X a little bit more is more niche shows that don't have, that will not have broad appeal. There's a reason why Love Island is on ITV2, not ITV main channel. Why Big Brother's going to go on ITV2, not the main channel. Because actually 4 or 5 million people, if you're really lucky, that's the Love Island, the outlier. But normally these shows get 1 million, maybe 2 if you're lucky. And that would look like, oh dear, it's not really delivering for us on the main channel. And because the way they work best, I think, is when you do flood your channels with them, like when Love Island's on, there's nothing else on really. I'm not sure that would be appropriate for ITV, which 1, has a public service remit, 2, has to satisfy a lot of different people. We would scare the old ladies away.
It seems like in the first time that you're perhaps entering a space where there's actually a real rich and meaningful platform for a range of diverse programming in a way that perhaps BBC 3 did, BBC 4 did, but ITV wasn't necessarily.
Yeah, ITV 2, I would say, has done a lot of really good things in this space for years. And so I would. I mean, what's nice for us now is we can get back into comedy. Comedy has become very small and niche. There are very few big mainstream comedies that would work, if you like, in ratings terms on BBC One or ITV for years now. The old Peter Kay sort of outlier and things. But now we've got, I think, 6 or 7 comedies in production ready for ITVX, and that'll be great because they don't have to get great big audiences, because they won't.
Well, a perfect segue, because comedy as a genre, as you say, has been difficult to make for a variety of reasons on linear television. We keep hearing buyers, and I have to say, as I understand it, particularly linear, are investing more and more in drama. So it's interesting to look at the numbers. And Doug, you've got another question.
I do, another kind of stat. So there's a question 4. Certainly scripted kind of grabs all the headlines, but looking in the UK across all new linear TV launches this year, tell us what proportion unscripted accounts for. Is it A, 50%, B, 70%, C, 80%, or D, 90%?
Is this money or hours?
This is number of new series launches.
Okay.
So basically, kind of title basis.
Oh yeah.
Right. So sadly, we've had a gremlin in the system, and the voting, the public, it isn't working. So I'm going to go to the panel and ask what you think until our system rejigs itself. What do you think is the answer to this? I'm going to start with you, Gab. I don't know why. I just feel you've got an instinct.
I'm going to say 70%.
Talca?
I am going 50%. It's got to be more drama than unscripted, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm going to go 80, just to be controversial. Because I'm thinking about all the very many linear launches there are, and there's not that many.
I want this to be like the end of Bullseye, where if you get it right, you might, win a caravan
might get a
or a
motorboat.
speedboat that you've only got
Love
right.
that.
Yeah, you've only got to drive somewhere. What do you reckon, Kevin?
Well, with a 100% record so far, I would say, no, you see, drama, you think there's a lot of drama but we can't afford that much drama. I think it would be wildly disproportionate towards unscripted, and no one else has picked it, so I go 90. Because think of the amount it's just titles, don't think shows, don't think size of show. Think of all the digital channels, they don't have any drama. And they launch shows all the time. I think it would be 90.
Well, I mean, a mixed bag of answers, and sadly, we're not going to have time to ask your opinion, but I can see, looking around you, nobody seems entirely sure. It's like looking into the face of one of my juries. And so I'm going to give you the answer, and I'm afraid to say, Kevin, for me, you are entirely right.
There we go.
It is 90%. Looking at all new linear TV launched this year, unscripted series account for 90% of the proportion of the total, which gives you a sort of sense of the value of it. And coming back to you, Kevin, I mean, what is the balance between scripted and unscripted? I mean, the sort of percentage of commissions at ITV. So the question I think people are really asking, and again, I mean, it has arrived from panels trying to curate everything they want to ask you but don't really get the meeting. Does unscripted travel better than scripted, do you think? Does it have that sort of commercial reach?
Well, traditionally, definitely. And, you know, from American game shows to UK formats and lots of others elsewhere. Yes, drama, I always think the drama usually suffers in translation. And there's a tendency to sort of stick a French drama that's brilliant into kind of Google Translate and reshoot it. And it doesn't often work because they're peculiar things born out of a writer's mind, you know, full of all the mores and social intricacies of that society. So, and I think it's what's brilliant actually, and the BBC should take the pioneering credit for this, is bringing European drama to UK audiences now, because we're all quite familiar with watching them. And there are some fantastic ones. You know, I'm in the middle of the French Gourmet Agent at the moment. You know, there are so many good Scando, Crime Tales and everything. So, no, I don't think many dramas translate. The hard copies can sell now more easily than they used to. And certainly with things like BritBox in the US, now more and more people in America are getting exposed to, you know, quintessentially British drama. You know, we're talking about Midsummer Murders and Vera here, and there is a sizable enough audience for them to enjoy it.
But it's an interesting thing about where unscripted emerges from. So I think it's time now to look at territories. And who do you think makes the most formats? Who buys the most? Has South Korea overtaken the Netherlands? I think you've got a question for us.
We did. So we took all the formats which were moving in 2021. And the very simple question, which territory originated the largest volume of unscripted format movers last year in 2021? And your options are A, the UK, B, the Netherlands, C, South Korea, or D, the United States.
Now, I don't know whether we're open, but I think it's back working, so do vote now. What's your, apparently not, what's your instinct on this, Natalka?
I'm going to go with the UK.
Claire?
I mean, I think this is one of those trick questions because the obvious one would be to say South Korea, but I don't think it is. I think it's the UK.
Gamma?
Yeah, I'm going to say the UK.
Kevin, please don't leave here with 100%.
I do. It's got to be the UK. Because South Korea's are like 3 shows. Fuck off, you know. They're big shows, good shows, but for God's sakes. So, in the Netherlands, ever since John de Mol, you know, disappeared, they haven't ever come up with anything. So, I suspect it's the UK.
I can reveal the answer to you is, in fact, just as we have clever consensus, it is, in fact, the UK. It's fair to say, isn't it, Doug?
It is, and Kevin's quite right. South Korea gets a lot of attention, but if you look at the South Korean movers, 80% of them rely on 2 formats. Yeah. I Can See Your Voice and The Masked Singer, so it's quite interesting.
But Natalka, I'm wondering whether, I think the expression is the sort of centre of creative gravity is moving away from the UK into different markets where perhaps there's more scope to take the type of risks that Gamma was talking about in that sort of, if you like, ordinary punters taking part in reality.
I don't know if that's true. I mean, I've just come back from working in America, you know, for a number of years. It feels quite refreshing to be here, you know, and exciting and still possible to sell shows, and the fact that the number of formats here that are, you know, the UK formats are still selling. I think the golden days where you could get rich off a format is much, much harder, but it still kind of works and people still buy interesting stuff. So I don't know where else, you know, is that exciting?
I don't know, but Claire, I wonder, is it a buyer's market? So much choice and so many brilliant production companies. Claire, then Kevin?
I mean, it's true there is so much choice. I think from where I'm sitting, it's probably more of a buyer's market for someone like Kevin because of the scale that you talked about. You know, we have scale globally, but in the UK, you know, it's actually natural for format holders or rights holders to want their show to go to a big scale place. It's got more chance of getting picked up. So we're fighting that battle a little bit. I mean, I did talk to Natalka about Big Brother for a hot minute before, you know, and that's fair enough. So
You were the first, though.
we were the first, yeah, we were the
And it is
practice
exciting,
run.
and I hate these sorts of questions, and I don't know whether you've prepared for them, but I'm going to go around and ask you, you know, given the reality, the tragic reality of the financial climate as we're coming into what appears to be a new historical moment, in one sentence, in the reality space, what does the future look like? And in no particular order, I'm going to start with you, Claire, in one sentence.
Well, I don't think I can do a whole sentence words. Complicated because of the rights position and the territories and things travel. Crowded, probably for consumers more. Too much choice. Sometimes that's just annoying if you haven't got the right service to watch what everyone's talking about on. It's quite stressful. And I should have another C word.
The what word?
Another C word, yeah.
Gamma,
Yeah,
you can help us with the C word. Creativity. Anything? Very quickly.
I really, well, as a producer, I think viewers are going to want more because no one's got money to go out anymore, so we're just going to stay at home. And I think there's a lot of demand, and especially with box sets and the way things are dropped, like, we're literally watching them so quickly, so we're like gagging for the next thing.
Natalka before Kevin.
Stakes and stories.
I mean, there you are.
Steaks.
Steaks and
Steaks,
stories.
not steaks you eat. Like
Well, those are also good.
steaks.
Oh, I thought you meant steaks as well. I'm so sorry. Steaks. Yeah, it sounds like a steak, like a restaurant chain. Steaks and
Steaks
stories.
and stories.
Kevin, last sentence to you.
Yes, thank you very much. I can't remember what the question is. What was this?
What's the future look like in one sentence in the reality space?
Grim.
Well,
It'll be wonderful. It'll be wonderful.
ladies and
Wait till
gentlemen.
pitch to Kevin.
First of all, I'd like to thank Claire, Natalka, Gamma, and Kevin, and say thank you to each and every one of you. Say that somebody that has gone from a so-called serious job and worked in the reality space, and have had the gift of speaking to people in the public and know the value that it can bring, not just in terms of escapism, but its real possibility for educating and bringing people together. So I'd like to thank this community of creativity here, and of course, everybody on the stage for contributing to that, and of course, making UK the 90% hub of where it all emerges from. I hope you have a wonderful tea and a good rest of day. Thank you all very much.